War strips life down to the bare essentials. In the chaos of the Second World War, soldiers and civilians alike discovered that survival often hinged not on grand strategies or advanced weaponry, but on the simplest of tools. What made the difference on countless nights was the ability to heat water, cook a meal, or keep frostbite at bay. The twist is that these stoves were rarely purpose-built. More often they were everyday items repurposed into lifelines. Mess tins turned into cookers, fuel tablets burned in makeshift stands, and scrap containers converted into portable stoves. They were not elegant, but they worked. And in war, working meant survival. For anyone studying history or exploring survival techniques today, these improvised solutions provide more than stories. They offer practical methods that remain just as useful when stripped of modern conveniences. Soldiers quickly learned that eating hot food was survival. Military rations in WWII were designed for portability, not comfort. Soldiers often carried dry bread, hard biscuits, or canned meat. Without heat, these foods were difficult to eat and provided little morale. Hot food, even if crude, kept men warmer, stronger, and more focused. Commanders knew it, but supplying full stoves and fuel to every soldier was impossible. That left soldiers to adapt with what they had on hand. A simple mess tin, the kind issued to millions across armies, could become a cooking vessel and stove in one. By placing it over a small flame, whether from wood, charcoal, or a chemical tablet, it could boil water, warm soup, or cook a ration of beans. In bitter cold, this small difference was often the line between endurance and collapse. Mess tins and cups became multi-purpose heating devices. The mess tin was designed for eating, but war turned it into a stove. Soldiers balanced them over candles, improvised metal stands, or even the glowing coals of a fire built in a trench. Some would punch holes into another can, creating a small stand that held their mess tin above a flame without spilling. A double-layer technique, placing water in the lower tin and food in the upper, turned it into a crude double boiler, preventing burning and conserving scarce ingredients. This ingenuity carried into civilian life as well. Families in occupied territories used old food tins the same way, turning scraps of metal into small cookers when larger stoves were out of fuel. For a modern survivalist, the lesson is clear. Any metal container, no matter how basic, can be both pot and stove if combined with a controlled flame. Fuel tablets became the hidden weapon of field cooking. One of the most widespread cooking methods in WWII was the use of solid fuel tablets, often made from hexamine or similar chemicals. Armies issued folding stoves, small metal frames that held these tablets beneath a pot or mess tin. Soldiers valued them because they were smokeless, lightweight, and easy to ignite. A single tablet could boil water in minutes, sterilizing it for safe drinking, or turning powdered rations into something edible. When tablets ran out, soldiers sometimes made substitutes by soaking rags in alcohol, or using wax and sawdust compressed into small blocks. The principle remains practical today. A compact smokeless heat source can mean survival when firewood is unavailable or unsafe to burn. Even in a modern emergency kit, carrying a few solid fuel blocks or learning to make them provides a direct link back to these wartime solutions. Improvised stoves were built from whatever scraps were at hand. A discarded food can become the most common base. By cutting a small opening at the bottom for airflow and punching holes at the top for exhaust, a soldier created what we now call a hobo stove. Small twigs fed into the bottom produced a steady flame, and the mess tin balanced above it cooked the meal. Some soldiers buried these cans in the ground with only the top exposed to hide the light. Others lined them with clay to hold heat longer. Civilians mirrored these methods in cities reduced to rubble, building tiny stoves from cans or scrap pipes that could burn anything flammable, wood chips, paper, or dried weeds. Today, the same principle is useful for campers or survivalists. A tin can, a knife, and a handful of twigs can replace bulky stoves in an emergency. Cooking in wartime taught conservation of both food and fuel. Another striking feature of these makeshift stoves was how they taught efficiency. Fuel was precious. Soldiers learned to build small enclosed flames that directed maximum heat to their food rather than letting it escape. Lids on tins trapped heat, speeding up cooking. Placing hot stones around the cooker kept meals warm without additional fuel. Even the food itself was prepared with conservation in mind. Boiling water first allowed a soldier to rehydrate rations, then use the same hot water for tea or coffee. Nothing was wasted because nothing could be wasted. The same conservation mindset serves anyone preparing for emergencies today. Everyday stoves became symbols of resilience under hardship. What makes these improvised stoves memorable is not only their practicality, but their symbolism. They were acts of defiance against the crushing weight of war. A soldier crouched over a Meeston flame or a family huddled around a can stove in a bombed-out city were not just cooking. They were holding on to life, asserting a measure of control in a world stripped of it. These small flames carried the same weight as weapons in sustaining the will to endure. They remind us that survival is often defined not by grand inventions, but by the ability to repurpose the ordinary into the extraordinary. The story of mess tins, fuel tablets, and improvised cookers in World War II is more than historical trivia. It is living knowledge still relevant in times of crisis, off-grid living, or simple preparedness. For historians, it gives a glimpse into daily life under extreme pressure. For survivalists, it provides real techniques that can still be practiced today. If you value history that not only teaches but equips, then subscribe to In the Beginning and share this video so others can learn from it. These are the lessons that prove how ordinary objects in the right hands can save lives.